Week 9 of the fantasy baseball season, and here's a few hitters I would sell high and trade away this week. The first guy's Jesse Winker of the Cincinnati Reds. Jesse Winker, he's been on the list a lot this season, and hey, he's playing great baseball so far in the first 9 weeks of the season. He had 13 home runs, 29 RBIs, 37 runs scored, a 341 batting average, and a 403 on base percentage. So Winker, he's going out there, and he's been one of the best players in all Major League Baseball and fantasy baseball so far this season, ranked number 12. But right now, I just don't think it's going to continue here for Winker. A few weeks ago, the batting average was in the 370s, and right now it's going down slowly. I know 341 still an amazing batting average, and the 403 on base. But right now, I think Winker, the numbers are going to keep dropping, and there's no way he's going to sustain hitting in the high threes or even mid threes this season, when last season he hit 255. The power, I think, is legit, though. He'll probably finish the season with 25 to 30 home runs this year. But right now, I just don't see him continuing to hit the ball in the 300s in the last couple weeks for Winker. 5 homers, 6 RBIs with a 311 batting average. So he's been really good across the board. But right now, while his value's at a peak, I will look to trade him this week here in the last few games for Winker. May 27th at Washington, 1 for 3 with an RBI. May 28th at Chicago, 0 for 5. May 29th at Chicago, 1 for 3 with a run. May 30th, 1 for 3 at Chicago with a run. And May 31st, he didn't play in that one. June 1st, 0 for 4 versus Philly. And then today's game was rained out, Cincinnati versus Philly. So we'll see what Winker does when the games resume here. But right now, with this great numbers and the great batting average, I could trade him away and probably get a good starting pitcher and a hitter in a deal for Winker this early in the season. And right now, why wouldn't you do that here in week 9 while his value's at an all-time high? The next hitter I would look to sell high and trades Austin Meadows of the Tampa Bay Rays. So Austin Meadows, he got off to a slow start early in the season, but right now he's picking things up so far now. 13 home runs already, 39 RBIs, only a 241 batting average, and a 354 on base with 31 runs scored. But the last couple weeks here for Meadows, he's done a lot of damage. 4 home runs, 14 RBIs, a 325 batting average, and a 471 on base. But the track record with Meadows here, he's not going to be that high of a batting average guy. I think the power numbers are going to be legit, and he's going to hit probably 25 to 30 as well, the former top prospect years ago. But right now, I just don't see him connecting with this high 300 average. And on the season, it's still a 241 average, with him in the last month hitting 270 as well. So right here, he's sitting over his head a bit the last few weeks. And right now, while he's built his value back up, I think you could do a nice 1-for-1 deal with Austin Meadows for another hitter or a starting pitcher in the last few games here for Meadows. May 27th versus Kansas City, 2 for 4 with a homer and 4 RBIs and 2 runs scored. May 29th versus Philly, 2 for 3 with a homer, 3 RBIs. May 30th, he pinched hit with a single and a run. May 31st at the Yankees, 2 for 4 with a homer. June 1st at the Yankees, 1 for 3 with a homer, 2 RBIs, and a stolen base. So right here, he's in the small ballpark in Yankee Stadium, and he's using that right field porch to his advantage, because he hit a homer the other day that didn't look like much, but it don't take much to hit it out, like I said, in right field at Yankee Stadium. And he's on a home run tear now as Meadows, with 4 home runs in his last 5 games. So right now, while he's red hot, this is a perfect time to sell him high, in my opinion, this week. The next hit is Yoan Makoda of the Chicago White Sox. So Makoda, a former top prospect years ago in the Red Sox system, until they traded him into the White Sox in a deal a few seasons ago. So Makoda on the season, 4 home runs, 29 RBIs, a 301 batting average, which is very good for Makoda. 429 on base, 8 runs scored, but 61 strikeouts in the 183 at-bats. But the last couple weeks, this guy's been a hitting machine, is Makoda. 364 batting average with 1 homer, 4 RBIs, and 7 runs scored. Last season, we only saw him hit 225, was Makoda. But maybe it's starting to come to full circle for one of the former top prospects in all of Major League Baseball here in Makoda. And Makoda, the last few games for him, May 27th versus Baltimore, 0 for 4 with a run. May 29th versus Baltimore, 3 for 5, a homer, 2 RBIs, and 3 runs scored. May 30th, 2 for 4 with a ribby. May 31st at Cleveland, 3 for 7 with a run. And yesterday at Cleveland, 2 for 3. So right here, Makota, in his last 4 games, he's got multiple hit ball games. And right now, I'm just not buying the 301 batting average. And right now, well, he's playing real good baseball, ranked 81st in fantasy baseball. This is an easy time to sell him off because no way he's going to continue at 300 this season. After the last few seasons, we seen him hit in the 230s or 240s. So he's a classic sell high candidate right now this week. The next hit is Marcus Semien of the Toronto Blue Jays. So Semien, we know he's a legit ball player. We know he's been in the MVP ballot race as well over the last few seasons with Oakland. But right now, some of his numbers, they just don't add up for me where he's going to finish the season with these high numbers. So Semien this season, he's playing second base for the Blue Jays, and obviously he still qualifies at shortstop. But so far this season, 13 home runs, 32 RBIs, 8 stolen bases, 36 runs scored. But the number that pops out to me is another guy hitting over his head with a 300 batting average. And the last 2 weeks here, 4 home runs, 8 RBIs, 12 runs scored, a 385 batting average, and a 467 on base. So right here, Marcus Semien, he's tearing the cover off the ball. He's hitting the baseball at a great rate, but I just don't buy it right now. Last season, I know it was a short year, but last year he had 211 at-bats, and this year 213. And last year he hit in the 220s, and throughout his career, he's a usual 240, 250 hitter. And right now, I just don't think the average will keep up here for Semien. The power I definitely think is legit, though, where he'll hit 25 or 30 homers this season. But right now, I definitely would sell him off high while I can. And I think I could get 2 decent batters for him or a good starting pitcher in a deal. And the last few games for Semien, May 27th at the Yankees, 2 for 6 with a homer and 2 runs scored. May 28th at Cleveland, 1 for 5. May 29th, that ball game got postponed at Cleveland. May 30th at Cleveland, 4 for 6 in the doubleheader with an RBI and a run scored. And June 1st yesterday, 2 for 4 versus the Marlins. So right here, Marcus Semien, he's playing well. He's had a few multiple hit games over the last few games, but right now, I just don't buy it, and I think he's going to go back down that batting average. And right now, well, he's on a peak value and hitting the baseball. This is a perfect time to sell him off in the 5th and final hitter. I would look to sell high and trade away this week's Austin Riley of the Atlanta Braves. So Austin Riley, I spoke about him last week as a sell high candidate, and I'm going to continue to stand by this here on the season. 10 home runs, 24 RBIs, 28 runs scored, and another guy where his batting average is way up from the last couple seasons, a 310 batting average and a 401 on base percentage. And we'll break it down the last couple weeks. 5 home runs, 12 RBIs, 8 runs scored, a 378 batting average, and a 405 on base. So I just don't buy these numbers here for Riley. And I mentioned it last week as well. He was versing some weak pitching teams like the Pittsburgh Pirates last week, and also the Marlins early in that week. So right here, the last couple games for Riley, May 26th at Boston, 1 for 3 with a homer. May 28th at the Mets rained out. May 29th at the Mets, 1 for 3. May 30th rained out at the Mets. May 31st, 0 for 4 versus Washington. And then yesterday versus Washington, 2 for 4 with 2 RBI. So he hasn't done much in his last 4 or 5 games. And like I mentioned, versus the Pirates, he had a huge series versus them with 5 home runs and 9 RBI. So that was most of his numbers. That was most of the batting average going up. And right now, while the batting average is at a great rate still, this is a definite time to sell Riley high because he's still striking out at an all-time rate. And a guy who don't put the ball in play that much and strikes out a lot, there's just no way I could see him sustaining this 300 batting average. So that's a few hitters I'd look to sell high and trade away here in Week 9 of the fantasy baseball season.